You're live.
We're live. We're in living color.
Yeah.
Yep. Welcome everybody to Six Wins YouTube channel. Chris and Matt here.
Hello.
And we just ran the best fictional athlete bracket. Can you believe there's so many fictional athletes?
This is such a fun one. Actually,
Yeah.
when you pitched the idea, I was like, oh, this is gonna be so fun. But yeah, I was having a hard time thinking that there would be enough to pick from, but we got a lot of fun once I kind of started thinking outside the box, and we went not just like movies, went out to some like fictional characters from like video games and things like that. I think we got a couple of fun extras in there.
Yeah, I think so too. And we've always been talked about doing like a cool sports movies thing.
Oh, yeah.
So this was kind of like a page out of that, where it seemed fun to just look at this athletes specifically. So some movies like Mighty Ducks or I think Sandlot, they had multiple people from the movie here in the bracket. Some were seated high, some were seated low, but it was exciting results. So we'll get to the winner of the best fictional athlete bracket here in a moment. But what we're going to do here, we're just going to take a spin, just kind of review the bracket, chat about some of it. So if you're a sports movie fan, or if you have some of your favorite fictional athletes, join us, hang out. Feel free to pop some stuff in the chat. Or if you're watching this later on, feel free to leave a comment.
Some comments, yeah.
Yeah, we like talking about this stuff. So Matt, first question.
Oh, questions.
Were there any results from the bracket? And we have the bracket pulled up here on our end. But were there any results from the bracket that you were surprised by, or that you felt like were kind of the results were a little shocking to you?
I don't know if anything was like shocking in a negative way, where in the past we've had like shocking results we've complained about, and like Robin Williams,
oh, God.
best actor of all time. Okay. But there was a lot of like interesting surprises that I did like seeing, and was like, oh, that's cool. I don't want to spoil too late, because like most of the interesting stuff would be saying like who had a deep run and like went far, like who I didn't expect to go as far. It wasn't just our ones and twos.
No.
But to be fair, like ranking and seeding like fictional athletes, really hard. I mean, it's really hard to like seed any of these brackets where things are being compared like from decades of times worth of history for like actors or wrestlers, or silly things like best fictional athlete. Like, how do you really like seed fictional athletes? Is it like the popularity of the movie, how good they were, their story? Because like Rocky, I mean, I guess he's a top tier athlete, right? Did he win were titles on the line, or was this just like pro-am boxing?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think Rocky is more known for like maybe not being the biggest and the best, like Apollo Creed or Ivan Drago were, but like just never giving up.
Yeah,
that's kind of what I get from Rocky. So
for sure,
we had that. But whereas like if you ever seen Mighty Ducks, Adam Banks, maybe kind of a little sissy, didn't have a whole lot of fighting him, but just had skills for days. If you were, he was your superstar.
Yeah, so it's like, it was like, how are people going to vote? And it really doesn't matter, because you get to vote, and maybe we'll see some kind of like connective like voting lines. Like maybe there will be kind of like some thing that tied it all together, that like we think people, maybe they were voting for their favorite movie more or less. Like, did better movies send guys deeper? I don't know if that's necessarily the case. But I haven't seen as many of these results. I still actually don't know the winner, but Chris does.
I know the winner.
So it's going to be fun to kind of just review some things as we maybe kind of look at each region. Any surprises for you though?
Let's see if I think we could break this down region by region. Let's see if we can pull up. Here we go. Here is the results from the, what would this be? The Northwest region, top left. So the first overall pick, Rocky. So he was the number 1 seed in.
And you did take Rocky. I went back and I checked.
Take Rocky.
For anyone that hasn't seen any videos, and maybe we've only discussed it once or twice now, because it's kind of a new development. We used to kind of make like bets just on like certain matchups that were coming up, and the loser might have to do something that the winner would challenge them or like dare them to do. We decided to kind of change up that strategy so that there is a bit more stakes in drafting. Obviously, we don't want to like cheat the bracket and like screw over a really good 1 seed by like hiding somebody for a 16.
Yeah.
That screw over Chris's top guy. But whoever wins the bracket, if that was a guy I picked, I get to challenge Chris to do something, and if it's a guy Chris picked, he gets to challenge me to do some kind of dare or punishment or consequence. So there are some stakes here, but we usually forget who we pick sometimes. So I know I was like sure I picked Rocky and that you picked Ricky Vaughn, and then I went back. I was like, no, yeah, you had Rocky. Yeah.
Right. That's how we do like first overall pick. We'll pick the number 1 seed in like the top left region if you're looking at a bracket, and then we'll just kind of go down the line, and then once all 1 seeds have been picked, the person who had the last 1 seed pick will move on to the other one. First 2 seeds. Yeah. So we'll reveal who the finals came down to, but they were both one of our picks. So we knew with just the finals matchup that the other person
had already lost.
Yeah, it wasn't going to be. So also before this, we did best chain restaurant, and Buffalo Wild Wings won, which was Matt's pick. So this is just an example.
Yeah.
And then Matt's challenge for me was we got to go to Buffalo Wild Wings.
Eat like the second hottest wing level, maybe.
Yeah.
Challenge Chris to do it.
Yeah. And I'm not like a huge sissy when it comes to spice, but I'm certainly no like crank it up to 10. I want to sweat. I'm just kind of like the spiciest I'll usually go at a B-dubs is, I don't know, like a spicy garlic or maybe the Caribbean jerk, but even that's getting a little.
Yeah. What's up with people who want eating to be like painful and challenging?
I don't get it. Like, I don't get it.
Eating's like the one thing that should kind of like never hurt you and be like something that feels good. But then people are like, I just want to eat something that makes me like sweat and hurts me physically, and like what?
Yeah, I will never understand it. Like I got a sweet tooth, like I love sweet food like candy, sugar, but like I take it up to 10 out of 10 with something like that. For me, I'm all good, but there's no like pain involved, right? But with maybe people who really like really spicy food, they don't feel pain. They just maybe they got a different gene and they just
maybe they don't feel it, but their body certainly still exudes the signs that they're in discomfort with like sweating and like stuff like that. So we'll see.
Right.
All right.
Okay. So that was the Northwest region. Anything hopping out at you? Was there any like favorites that you had that you wanted to see go all the way? As we can see, Happy Gilmore ended up taking this one, but
yeah, this one played out pretty similar to what I expected. Honestly, I figured Rocky was a good lock to go deep. It was a great 1 seed. I was surprised. I figured Rocky was like the favorite. If you had to pick someone with the best odds, Rocky was kind of the best odds. So I was surprised. That Mr. Happy Gilmore won that one. But yeah, I guess the one thing I'm bummed on is we didn't get the Shooter McGavin versus Wolf the Dentist matchup in the second round. But
yeah, that'd have been cool. I was the one thing I was surprised by, Roy Munson from Kingpin taking down the dude, the classic Big Lebowski character. I was shocked by that one. I thought the Big Lebowski was just this classic iconic character, and I didn't think Kingpin was quite as well known or at least as well renowned as the Big Lebowski, but that was a bit of a shocker. 2 bowlers going at it, head to head,
bowler matchup.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. But I agree with the Elite 8 matchup here, Rocky versus Happy Gilmore. But of course, with Rocky being my number 1 pick, that was just where my mind went as like the obvious choice for a fictional athlete. I'm just like, oh well, Rocky kind of set the whole athlete genre in motion. I think it was fairly close, but I like Happy Gilmore as winning. Like if someone's going to take down Rocky, Happy could be the one.
Yeah, that's why I actually thought I picked Rocky, because it's like, oh, Chris is such a big like Adam Sandler fan and a big fan of like Happy Gilmore. He's like, I take Happy Gilmore over Billy Madison. So I was like, of course Chris would have picked Happy Gilmore. I wouldn't have stolen that from him, but there I was, blowing his number 1 Rocky and having Happy Gilmore advance.
Yeah. So there we go. We got Adam Sandler, none than Happy Gilmore as the first of the final 4. And we'll go ahead and we could take a look at the other region in the world. And holy cow!
A Sandler off.
Sandler versus Sandler. We did get that matchup in the final
Sandler
four.
versus Sandler.
We'll reveal who won that match here in a little bit. But this was Matt's region where he had the #1 seed. Rick Wild Thing Vaughn.
Clearly not as good of a pick, I guess, but we might have underseeded Apollo. I knocked out my own 1 seed because I would have picked Apollo Creed here since I would have been on the odd numbers as the 1 seed here. Apollo's a tough 9 seed, but I still would have thought Ricky Vaughn, Charlie Sheen, Wild Thing would have gone a little bit deeper, but it might have just been that matchup, quite honestly. Like, I think he probably beats Willie Mays Hayes because another guy from Major League, and not quite as major protagonist. Bobby Boucher is a surprise, though, and I mean, he was seeded, I think, fairly, but he had to pull some upsets to get there.
Yeah, he really did. He took down in the first round the iconic Chet Steadman. So clearly, more people have seen Waterboy than Rookie of the Year, or at least know Rookie of the Year well. But I don't remember who picked whom in this one. But if I'm voting personally, I actually probably have Bobby Boucher going down in the first round. I'm just a huge Rookie of the Year fan, so I probably would have had Chet Steadman.
Well, I think you took Boucher and I took Steadman. Because like anytime, like if you're the 1 seed, you'll have all the odd numbers because you would have taken the 2, and so like you're either the evens or the odds in a region. So yeah, you had Bobby Boucher. I went with Chet Steadman because I'm a big Steadman fan. Gary Busey in that role is so funny. That little playing like electric guitar riffs, like signify that his Tommy John elbow is just ripped apart.
I don't know what my shoulder will do if I heat it up again. I don't get it. You're throwing so slow. Well, thank you very much. We can quote the whole movie. Let's just take the hour. We'll just quote Rookie of the Year the whole time.
Not? But we did have, one really cool thing that we ended up finagling was that bottom mini bracket, some kids sports movie protagonists, 2 of the most popular female characters, some kids sports movies, Chewie the Cat Gaffney, goaltender for the Mighty Ducks in D2. And Icebox, Becky O'Shea. If I got Becky O'Shea, I'm pretty sure. Running back. For the Little Giants, not the quarterback. That would have been Junior Floyd, who went up there against Adam Banks, pretty boy Adam Banks, hockey player for the Mighty Ducks. And we had our Little Giants versus Mighty Ducks bracket there.
Yeah. And looking at it, it's wow. It's really hard to draft these clearly because I feel like Adam Banks was equally as important to the Mighty Ducks as Junior Floyd was to the Little Giants.
It was sort of the same, kind of a bit of that same trope. Like handsome guy who's kind of actually skilled, where some of the other kids are trying to learn and catch up,
Yeah. Well, I didn't even draw this comparison. This might be a bit of a stretch, but not really. In the first Mighty Ducks, the Mighty Ducks, they were terrible. And they got the opportunity. They saw that Adam Banks was actually in their boundaries. So they drafted this. They didn't draft, but they ended up getting the one good player that was on their team. Well, the Little Giants sucked. And they just saw Junior Floyd, by himself throwing footballs in the grocery store. So they acquired the one good player.
Yeah.
So they're actually
very similar role there.
Cool. But Adam Banks won. I don't know. I don't know what the rhyme or reason was for that, but we did get the Little Giants Icebox going up against Adam Banks there in the second round, and Icebox took him down. So by that, comparison, people are saying Icebox is superior to not only Adam Banks but Junior Floyd too.
Yeah, so. I think if I were to vote, I would have voted Icebox out of these 4. If I was the best athlete, because she was just from the get-go talented, and even though she got looked over, she still was better than people ever gave her credit for, which is the sign of a good athlete.
Yeah, for sure. And went up against Bobby Boucher there in the Sweet 16. Similar kind of similar athletes. Both bad teams. They're kind of the enforcer of their team, and it's kind of funny. A lot of these parallels I didn't even draw when we were coming up with the bracket or even putting up the voting on YouTube. But a lot of really good matchups here.
Yeah, we also, so Bobby Boucher went over Icebox into the Elite 8. And we did get a matchup of 2 of Rocky's greatest opponents, Apollo Creed versus Ivan Drago. And Apollo Creed won it. we did not expect those two to face off against each other, not based on our seeding, certainly. Drago as a 13 and Apollo as a 9. We weren't expecting either of them to probably go to the second round. They both did and got to face off against each other. So that was something cool that just happened very naturally.
Yeah. And what's kind of wild is I think they did fight in the second or third Rocky movie. It might have been 3. And didn't Drago kill Apollo in a fight?
Yeah.
R.I.P. to the actor that played Apollo Creed. Also played Chubbs in Happy Gilmore. Why am I blanking on his name? Live and on the spot. We'll keep going. I don't want to fumble this. I'm going to look him up on IMDb real quick.
Yeah. Well, while you're looking him up, so we got another boxer versus another Adam Sandler character. And so this was interesting. I won't spoil who made it into the Elite Eight from our other regions, but boxers comprise 3 of the 8 Elite 8 spots. No other sport had more than 1, actually. So it is really wild considering like boxing does not seem to be the most real life popular sport. I know it's because it's like more infrequently televised and big matches only come around every so often, but it's wild that like boxing fictional athletes seem to be just as in high regard as any other fictional athletes, the stories that are told in boxing. So that surprised me more than anything, how well boxing characters did compared to what I feel like if people were to pick the top athletes in real life, I don't think any boxers would make the Elite 8.
Yeah.
We'd be picking basketball players and football players because of their just freak athleticness.
Right.
Boxers get in the ring and they feign jab, and some guys punch really hard and some guys just hug you until the time runs out and wins judge's decision. Right.
I feel like if you had one, probably Muhammad Ali in there, but he might squeak in, but like I feel like you're right. That's like the only one. Let's see here. I hope that
I'm wondering if it's not drawing in from this microphone right now, possibly. And if settings can be checked, because I noticed you checked that earlier.
Yeah. I did have Blue Yeti highlighted. Let me check something real quick. I'll just try to join the live stream from my phone and make sure we have the live stream from my phone.
We're gonna get a live caller. He can hear us.
Yeah,
live caller, you're on. Did you think Apollo Creed should have beat Bobby Boucher?
No, I don't think Apollo Creed. Okay, cool. So that was the left side of the bracket. We got an Adam Sandler show off here that we're going to get to in a second, but we want to take a look at the other regions.
Yeah.
This region up here, not quite as fancy looking. I'll just share the actual bracket. The whole right side of the bracket with results, not spoiling much, but we'll take a look at this region real quick. And boom. So this is the one we're looking at now. I just highlighted just for convenience sake.
For the ease of your eyeballs.
Yeah. Alrighty. So this
it moved. It disappeared. Control Z it.
Oh no.
There we go.
Show must go on, folks. Okay, so the Benny the Jet region.
This might have had some of my favorite fictional athletes in it, if I'm being honest.
There are some good ones. I feel like this is the one where we really started to branch out from just movies to video games.
Yeah.
There's quite a few video game athletes on here, and there were a couple of animals, animated characters. So this is kind of a mixed bag.
Yeah, this is a wild one. Yeah. What were your thoughts on this? Benny the Jet Rodriguez was your 1 seed here. Your 1 seeds did well, unlike mine. I did have Ricky Vaughn, who just tanked, but your 1 seeds both made it to the Elite 8. They did what they were supposed to do.
Yeah, not bad. I was hopeful that Benny would go far. I was hoping that most people, at least the people who were voting, held him in as high of regard as I do. He was like kind of my childhood hero growing up. So I had Benny at number 1. Trying to think of if I were to pick anyone else to go to the Final Four, which Benny did. You see here, no spoiling. I'm a big fan of the movie Replacements. I probably would have pushed for Shane Falco to go a little further. I drafted him at 3, which is pretty high.
He did well.
Did all right.
He ran up against some of the only sex appeal we had in this bracket. And that's if you're into animated anthropomorphic characters. And like, I'm not going to shame you. This Lola Bunny is it. I love her. That's why one of the reasons I love this bracket. Her and Pablo Sanchez, amazing, like animated sports characters that are just like iconic. And so I was really happy to see Lola Bunny go so far. I actually thought I drafted her as a 2 because I knew I had the 2 here. And I saw that she was like going into the Elite 8. And I was like, oh, wow. I was worried she was going to get upset since I picked her at a 2. But I think we seeded her fairly as a 6 and she overperformed. So that's really I was pretty excited to see Lola Bunny go up against Airbud, actually. And she beat Airbud. I'm surprised. I don't think Airbud should have beat Henry Rowan Gardner. I mean, I get that people love animals and stuff, but we're talking about a kid that played in the major leagues versus a dog that played for like a local YMCA basketball team and just did trick shots. Like, this is ridiculous. Who's the better athlete here?
Yeah. Man, maybe get Airbud a little more recognizable.
Yeah, because
people love dogs.
Exactly. If you said Rookie of the Year kid, like I wonder if Henry Rowan Gardner, people don't remember his name that easily. It's like, oh, Rookie of the Year.
That's true.
You know, his name's ridiculous for a character name in a movie.
Gardenhoser, Rosenbagger. I think there's 1 or 2 more. Rabbit Boozer.
But yeah, we got a Pablo Sanchez, Benny the Jet matchup, which is sweet.
Yeah.
2 like iconic baseball characters for kids growing up, I feel like. Pablo Sanchez probably not as much because like the backyard baseball games, like movies are able to kind of be preserved and like gone back and watched, but like the old CD-ROM games, like nobody has a computer where you're putting the CD-ROM to play backyard baseball in there anymore.
Yeah.
So like you only knew Pablo Sanchez if you grew up at a certain time, a time we grew up in, but like anybody growing up will probably see The Sandlot a lot of times and see Benny the Jet. So I think he was the rightful winner, but I love it. I would, like they would totally be on the same team.
Yeah.
They would be like great teammates together. Like I'm surprised backyard baseball never did like a crossover somehow with Sandlot. It wouldn't have been something that like happened in video games back then, but 100% now with like all the weird like crossovers and cross promotions of like different franchises in video games, especially like really popular ones, having like backyard sports, that franchise take like other fictional characters from movies and stuff and put them into the game as characters would have been really cool. It'd be something I could totally see happening.
Right. And I only knew of like Pablo Sanchez. I never played the game, but I knew who that was. Like when I was trying to get some suggestions from my buddies in our group chat, and a couple people threw that out there, Pablo Sanchez, and I'm like, why do I know that name? It was like one of those things that's like tucked in the back of your mind, of like memories. And then I looked him up, like, oh yeah, I've played this game somewhere, but I never owned it. So yeah, very strange, but that was cool.
Do you have any favorite sports video games growing up?
Yeah, I liked the NBA Lives. Like I remember specifically, I think it was like NBA Live 03, maybe. NHL Hits was always fun.
Oh yeah, NHL Hits was good.
What would the NFL Blitz?
Yep,
Hits and Blitz, those are fun. I liked a lot of the wrestling games, but I will say this, and you're more of a gamer than me, so I could be totally dead wrong.
Okay.
Here. All I really know of video games these days is just watching the commercials and being like, oh yeah, I could see myself playing that. Have graphics not gotten any better in the past 15 years? I feel like 15 years ago, it was like, oh my God, that looks so real. And you expected, at least I expected by now, for it to be like indistinguishable. But I feel like that's not the case. What's going on with that, Matt?
That's a good question. My answer is it's probably one of the 2 ways you could go. There are people that are like so into like graphical fidelity and like that's what they care about most. Okay. And like games that are still in 30 frames per second versus 60, or games that can't be in 4K because they're made for like older systems. Like these are people that will like it's 2024. All games should be in 4K. There shouldn't be any 30 frames per second. And these are things that are like not noticeable. But that's what people probably would have said to people when we switch from standard definition to high definition. I go home sometimes, my parents will still have on like a standard definition channel. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I know I'm not the most observant, but you have to be able to tell the difference between these two.
Right.
It is very obvious. And maybe these people just are on that next level and like can tell like this does not have ray tracing or 60 frames per second is definitely noticeable. Yeah. But you're right. I think we grew up in a really cool time because as we were probably like 10, like in our preteens and early teens, we got to see that jump from like 2D to like 3D. As like the main in our childhood. And like, yes, there's like VR and stuff now, but that's almost more of a gimmick where like 3D is like what we really see the world in.
Yeah.
And we're still like motion capture is a lot better and things like that. But yeah, it's just like these tiny small tweaks now to just make things a little bit more realistic. Hair physics, how the light bounces off people's stuff. Like I don't even notice in real life.
Yeah.
Like maybe if you're a photographer and know about light, but I don't know shit about lighting.
No, I'm trying to figure it out too. I mean, speaking of that, we got this little backlighting here because I read that, backlighting helps. And we got this, can't really show you, but we get this big old kind of like softbox light that, is it for photography? Is it for streaming video? Should we shoot on 4K?
Is it for adult videos?
Is it for our OnlyFans, which you can, subscribe to now?
So just pay, you can just find us on the street and give us cash, and we'll make sure that you get the videos.
Right.
Yeah. No, but so games, lights. What do you want to wrap up on lights?
Yeah, wrap up on lights. Benny the Jet moving on to the final four. So we got 3 of the 4 final 4. We got Happy Gilmore, Bobby Boucher, a couple Sandlers, Benny the Jet, and as you can see, if you're peeking, if you're sneak peeking, here is our final region that we're gonna break down, and you can see the winner. Forrest Gump.
I did get one of my number 1 seeds through. Almost lost to another Creed. Both of my 1 seeds had to go up against Creeds. One lost, one went over Adonis. Forrest Gump was a weird 1 seed pick for me. It was a little bit of a punt, and I kind of picked it based on the popularity of the movie rather than my perception of him as a traditional athlete. But one thing that we talked about before we jumped on is that unlike some of these other characters who are just like a one sport athlete, Forrest Gump in the movie is successful across sports. Not only is he an incredible like marathon runner, he wins an Olympic medal in ping pong, table tennis. So he's a multi-sport athlete, which maybe makes him a better athlete than just being good at one thing. So I felt conflicted taking him as a 1 because, again, like traditional sports for me, basketball, baseball, soccer, hockey, football seem like where you have the best athletes versus like a guy who runs and a guy who has good table tennis skills. Yeah. But he, people validated him as a 1 seed.
Big time.
Any thoughts about Forrest Gump or any other surprises for you here, actually?
Looking at this one, this might be my favorite region.
Ooh.
I love comedies. And we got a kind of comedy powerhouse with Thumper, who, if you don't know who that is off the top of your head, nobody does.
I keep seeing it and thinking it's the rabbit from Bambi.
Oh, yeah, no.
But I know who it is.
It's the ski instructor from South Park. And if you still don't know, if you ever heard someone say like, you're gonna have a bad time. Pizza when you should have French fried, and that's how he teaches the kids. I love South Park, so I, racked my brain and tried to think of any South Park character that could be considered an athlete, and that was like the only one. Other than on the other region, I threw Jimmy Vollmer on there because he joined the Special Olympics and he got super jacked. And the only reason I ended up doing that is because I realized one of the fictional athletes we picked was a real athlete that just got played in a movie, which I think was Raging Bull. Robert De Niro. His character was based off a real person. So but Coop Cooper from basketball, love me some basketball. We got the first round dodgeball matchup with White Goodman and Fran. Not going to try to pronounce her last name. But I'll tell you one thing that surprised me. Coop from basketball, making a run to the Sweet 16, only to get eliminated by Forrest, who went to the Final Four. I was shocked. I didn't realize many people at all had seen basketball, but that's, one of those movies that I watched probably when I was far too young. I think it came out in like 97, 98. I was 10. And me and my buddies would quote it in middle school, like 7th grade. We could quote like the whole movie, R-rated parts and all. So I love that movie. But yeah, that's kind of where I fall on that one. What about you?
Yeah, I think this region might have had my favorite first round matchup. I know some of the other matchups that we got, like getting to see Drago versus Apollo, having two Sandler characters square off in the Final Four, which we still don't know who won that one yet. But first round matchups that I think were really interesting. Kenny Powers versus Maximus from Gladiator is such an amazing matchup.
So funny.
I would have been happy with either of them winning because you have like this complete badass Maximus, Gladiator, very not your first thought when you think of an athlete in a movie. And Kenny Powers, also very not the first thing when you think of an athlete in anything. But just such a complete polar opposite characters. One like very respectful, very like humble, and like and like sort of meditative, and Kenny Powers, who's also meditative, but in like an offensive way. Like all his slogans, he would consider like his own meditations and affirmations. It's like, you're fucking out. Obviously that's the main quote, but he says way funnier things than that. Yeah. Like Kenny Powers, that show is so good and so funny. I would have loved to see him go deeper, even though he's by far not a best athlete by like success in the major league definitions.
He's like the John Daly kind of movies.
Absolutely.
Or I guess you could say John Daly is like the Kenny Powers of real life.
Yeah. But so Forrest Gump did go over Adonis Creed. Do you think if they keep making Creed movies, maybe like one or two more, and then in a few years, Adonis Creed could be in a Final Four?
Maybe, if it comes down to kind of a popularity contest as Forrest Gump kind of becomes an older and older, fades in obscurity a little bit, though it's still a solid movie. Doesn't quite hit as hard. Maybe it's because I've seen it so many times, or maybe it's because it's 30 years old now. But I don't know. I've never seen a Creed. Have you ever seen a Creed?
I have not.
Maybe what was the one? I think Creed is in it, but it's just called Rocky Balboa. I think it's like Rocky is like, kind of at the tail end of his career, and he gives that classic speech. If you know what you're worth, then go out and get what you're worth. But you got to be willing to take the hit.
Yeah.
Cowards do that, and that ain't you. You're better than... I think Creed is in that movie, and then he gets his own spinoff.
Yeah, that was kind of like the transition. They're like, let's still call this one Rocky, where so people come thinking it's Rocky, but then we go, hey, you got to know going forward, we're doing Creed movies. We're doing Apollo Creed's son. Rocky kind of, was a tutor and a mentor to him. Stick around.
Have you seen the Creeds?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I haven't seen them. I guess one thing now that I'm looking at it is I wonder if some of his matchups were a bit easier though, because he was going up against comedic characters and in very less recognizable. Eastbound and Down, an HBO only show, so something that not like far less than a theatrical release people would have seen or known about, and Thumper, which a major TV show, South Park, but literally in like one, maybe a feature in a second episode, like in like one of like 600 South Park episodes. Right. So like his path to get to Forrest might not have been as challenging as some of the other 2s and 3s. So maybe I'm overthinking his ability down the line to perform as well as he did in this bracket. He might have just got the right matchups.
Maybe, yeah. This is another one. We could run it back someday. We are currently in the midst.
Speaking of,
we're currently in the midst. Shameless plug. Big wrestling fans here. Love pro wrestling, and we're running back best pro wrestler. So this might be one where down the line we'll run this back, or we've always talked about, like we said, a best just sports movie in general, something like that, where Creed would surely be on that for best sports movie, just along with the Rocky franchise.
All the
yeah.
Boxing again probably would take up a lot of slots.
Right. But there's been a lot of good boxing movies, like The Fighter, and I'm a big fan of Southpaw, even though it's kind of depressing. You kind of got to be in a stable enough mood to handle it, or else shit
will destabilize you.
Yeah, I'll fall apart with some shit like that.
Awesome.
Never mind. It has nothing to do with fictional athletes. I'll say it.
Say it.
Watched the movie Baby Boy recently. You ever seen Baby Boy?
Baby Boy. No, I'm not even sure I know who's in it or what's it about.
Well, it came out in like 2001.
Okay.
And I was a sophomore in high school at the time. And I remember like loving it a lot. And it was kind of a stoner at the time. And I was just like, whoa, this movie is like so smart and powerful. And it was just on again randomly, and it's really weird. You ever do that where like maybe this is relatable? I'm 36 now. Watching things that you used to watch when you were younger through the lens of your now 36-year-old, like kind of more developed brain, I would say. And sometimes it'll hit you right in the nostalgia bone, and you'll be like, man, I could see why this is really good.
Exactly.
But sometimes you're like,
shouldn't have gone back and watched that.
Yeah, and you kind of like it because it's like you're the same person, but also totally different. Like my life experience from 20 years ago, I'm different now. So like I looked at it through the lens. I'm like, it's not a good movie. It's kind of just dumb. Like these people get themselves into predicaments that I'm like, well, yeah, just he like knocks up these like multiple people. I'm like, well, just don't do that. Don't be cheating on your girl. Like I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Like you could avoid all this drama. That's what it is. Like you could avoid all of this dumb drama in your life and these shouting matches in the middle of the street, and you just didn't live like a moron. Like, and that and maybe that's I don't know.
That's funny. What do you, so to tie it into fictional athletes, is there one of these movies you've seen recently that did or didn't hold up well, or is there a movie that you think if you watched you'd go, oh, I don't know if that holds up as good as I thought it would?
The only one I can think of is Forrest Gump.
Oh wow!
But like I said, I watched it fairly recently. It's still a great movie, but I would say like back, late 90s, early 2000s, it was like my number one. Dude. It was like, I loved Forrest Gump. But looking back at it now, maybe it is like, my name's Forrest Gump. And then like people like quote like that, life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. It's like, sure you do. You look at the thing on a box of chocolates, like life couldn't be further from a box of chocolates. There's nothing here that says tomorrow you're going to get hit by a bus or, peanut caramel. Oh, this is the exact instructions on how to eat this box of chocolates. I like that they come with that.
Yeah, it is weird. And maybe times have slightly changed. And this is going to be a joke because I think even back then they were listing, like you would buy chocolates and you could see, but like obviously with all the people that have peanut allergies, you gotta list the kind of chocolates you could be at a lawsuit if you just give them a box of mystery. Like they're nuts in this, and their face is swollen. Interesting.
Well, any movies? Same question.
Great question. Well, what I was gonna mention is actually somebody recently had mentioned they watched Dodgeball again for the first time in a while. And one person was like, oh man, it was so funny. Or maybe it was the first time they had seen it and they really liked it. And another person chimed in before they were like, I really liked it. And they're like, oh yeah, I watched that again recently and I didn't think it aged well. Oh, no. So there was a little bit of some thoughts that like Dodgeball, maybe like the jokes don't land as well as they used to, or maybe this person saw when they were younger and developed out of that style of comedy. But it was not me, obviously, because I would have more to say on it. I think it probably would be like a kid's movie. Those are usually the ones that don't hold up as well. But I feel like Little Giants would still, it has that movie, like Little Giants and Mighty Ducks, they both still have a lot of heart. And same with Sandlot. Like they're not just going for like Minion style
Mm.
comedy with like just like loud, crazy noises that appeal to kids. Like there's a moral there. Same with Rookie of the Year. These were like kids' stories that weren't just like trying to appeal to like the ADD nature of like kids today. Just
Yeah.
like throw like loud, bright things and like musical dance numbers and like sell merchandise.
Yeah.
These were like
quick zooms.
Yeah, it wasn't about merchandise like setting up your franchise to make billions of dollars from kids who don't have money, but their parents will buy things for them. This was about kids who wanted to play sports. Kids like me growing up who had dreams, unlike your kids, your loser effing kids that are just gonna be addicted to candy and sugar for the rest of their lives and think Minions are the end all be all. I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
Have your kids get some goals and no, but like watching sports when you wanted to be like a professional athlete as a kid because you played sports, like these kids resembled you, and they went through the same thing, not being the best on the team or not winning the championship, and things like that, and not always being the best team. So I think those actually would still hold up. So I don't know if there'd be one on here that would be really, really terrible.
Yeah, totally agree. Kids, they just don't make them like they used to.
They don't. You have a kid. Sorry, I don't mean to imply your kid's addicted to sugar and Minions.
No, he will be, but not yet. No, he's good.
Video games.
Right, he's good. He does like a good video game, but
he loves a good YouTuber. You're gonna be the Kevin Owens, and you know your kids are gonna love a YouTuber, and you're still gonna be doing these videos, and we're gonna get in a feud with some famous YouTuber who started doing brackets and popped off. Your dad was doing this, and you just like him because he's popular. Kevin Owens, Logan Paul, a wrestling reference for you there.
Yeah, heck yeah. Which I think they set up a little maybe storyline where we might get Logan Paul versus Randy Orton at Mania, but that's beside the point. Those are not fictional athletes; those are real damn athletes.
They're real athletes, but they're playing fictional characters. But Randy Orton and Logan Paul are kind of playing themselves. So not totally. They're not like the Undertaker.
Right.
Should the Undertaker have made this list? Could you have argued for a guy? I think we talked about that. Wrestlers playing fictional characters. I think we said no.
Yeah, because then it probably would have changed this dramatically. It would have been at least half wrestlers. Okay, so we got our final four. Our final four is set. I don't have like
a beautiful graphic.
Yeah, I don't have a graphic, so I'll just tell you right now.
Picture this:
the final four of the best fictional athlete bracket: Happy Gilmore, Bobby Boucher,
Sandler off,
Benny the Jet Rodriguez from Sandlot, and Forrest Gump from
Forrest Gump.
So let's look at the Battle of the Sandlers first.
Battle of the Sandlers.
Battle of the Sandlers. So we got Happy Gilmore, Bobby Boucher. If it's on me, I'm going Happy Gilmore only because he was a dual sport, football, golf and hockey.
There you go.
While he wasn't like the best hockey player, you can still count it because he was, he led the league in most time spent on the penalty box.
Penalty minutes.
He's the only guy to take off his skate and try to stab somebody. But I not only do I like Happy Gilmore slightly better as a movie, I like Happy Gilmore better as a character. I love Bobby Boucher, but sometimes the
lispy baby talk kind of thing.
Yeah, and you wouldn't be able to argue, you wouldn't be able to convince me that Bobby Boucher was better at football than Happy Gilmore was at golf. I mean, Happy Gilmore, it was like him versus Shooter. Like Shooter's the best golfer in the world.
Yeah.
Bobby Boucher was great, but it was still college football for a team.
Probably not even D1.
No.
Like D2 football, like Georgia State or something, Georgia Southern.
Right. So
I made up a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, what was it? It's like maybe a made
they were the Mud Dogs. Probably like, I bet it's like East Georgia. They always like just throw like a directional on there if that school doesn't really exist. Some states do have like an Eastern Michigan, and some don't have like an Eastern Florida university. So you just like throw on a directional and make up something. But yeah, they're like the Mud Dogs. I feel like they're in Georgia or something.
Right.
Maybe Louisiana.
Yeah. I think I did. I feel like I did see a list recently that had it was like best Sandler movies, and it had Waterboy ranked well above Happy Gilmore. I want to say Happy Gilmore was like 9 or 10, and Waterboy was in like the top 3.
And Chris immediately clicked X on that tab.
Can you guess what the number 1 would be for like
best Adam Sandler movie?
For just like a generic,
Comedy or movie?
It's just movie.
Man, I think I'm gonna say Billy Madison, but I since they had Happy Gilmore so low, I bet it wasn't Billy Madison. I'm gonna say it was like Click.
Wasn't Clink? I don't even think Clink was on it. It was Wedding Singer.
Oh, Wedding Singer. Okay.
Yeah, which great movie, and it kind of had a little bit of both. It had like a good love story, and it's funny, and
Yeah.
I disagree.
Well, I would 100% agree with you on your Happy Gilmore, Bobby Boucher take.
Yeah.
Happy Gilmore, two-sport athlete, successful at the highest level of golf. Even if it was just one tournament, he did it. Beat the champ.
Yeah.
Bobby Boucher, great player that really turned around a collegiate football program. But golf puts you out there. You're one on the field.
Mhm.
Football is you're part of a team, even if you are the superstar. I would agree that Happy Gilmore, I would vote for Happy based on a character, based on a movie, and based on being a better athlete.
Yeah.
So I would have to agree with you there. Who ended up moving on?
So it was Happy Gilmore.
Happy Gilmore
moved on to the finals, which is pretty cool. But that's
Norm.
That's your pick.
Oh, hey, Norm. We got chat. Norm agrees. Happy. He would go Happy.
Yep.
I agree with you there.
Absolutely. So, so I kind of went first with my thoughts on this side. Why don't you go first with your thoughts? And again, this one was Benny the Jet Rodriguez versus Forrest Gump.
Man, this is hard. It shouldn't be, but it is. Because they're so different. One's from like heartwarming and like coming of age kids movie. One is from like an adult Oscar film.
Yeah.
Like Oscar nominated, like very like classy movie. One is a kid who's like really talented, but like not like just a kid that could grow up in your neighborhood. Like the kid you idolized, or the kid that maybe you were if you're a lucky kid out there and you're the best neighborhood at a sport.
Were you?
Nah, no.
I wasn't. I was always Sal. I was like,
yeah, it was a B+ player. We're the Daniel Bryans, right. And every once in a while, somebody wanted us to, like win in horse and like beat the best kid. You always, there's always once in a while you beat him. And whoa, yeah. And then Forrest Gump is like, his focus isn't really sports though. Like the movie is about his life, and it just happens to have some crossover with athletic success in like athletics, the Olympics, as a table tennis player, running a marathon. He played college football as well. He played for Alabama though, I think, right?
Yeah, Alabama.
Yeah. So multi-sport athlete and successful at everything he did. And so you could imagine if this story was about, didn't go the direction it did, and was like, wow, I'm really good at sports, I should apply myself and become the greatest athlete in this of all time, he would have succeeded. Whereas like even Benny the Jet's character, he does make it to the majors. We don't know how good he ever was, but you got to be really good to play for the Los Angeles Dodgers. I believe he played for the Dodgers, right?
Yeah.
Or at least he always wore Dodgers stuff, and so I think he played for him in the end.
He played for the Dodgers, and if I may touch on this, so I like Benny the Jet more. I like Sandlot more. But I'm actually gonna have to go Forrest on this one, and here's why. The reason I had to chime in now is because I was gonna touch on this. He was a great athlete when they were kids, but when they grew up, he was just like a pinch runner. And he didn't look that cool. Like, he was kind of goofy looking. I was very disappointed at the very end.
Casting problems.
He looks up at Smalls, who's like the announcer, because he still has a hat. The bill goes out to here, and he gives him the thumbs up. I was very disappointed that Benny the Jet didn't grow up to be like a stud, and they didn't rewrite that last scene for him to like maybe hit the
walk-off single in like a pretty big game to like,
right, but he just brought him in as a pinch runner, and which I get it because he pickled the beast, but like for that good of an athlete, how he was portrayed growing up, I wanted a little more out of grown up Benny the Jet, even though he was a pro. But
yeah,
I'm going Forrest. I want give me Forrest in the finals.
Yeah, I think if you were picking purely on best athlete, you gotta go Forrest. So if you made me vote, I'd pick Forrest. But I would also like Benny the Jet more and think he's a far more realistic
Yeah.
portrayal of somebody that could be a successful athlete than Forrest Gump, which is kind of just like, what's the name of that movie? It was like based on like it's Ben Stiller's in it, but it's like this guy that just like he's always like imagining and off in his own world, but he somehow like lucks into like being successful at everything.
Oh, Mr.
Magoo. It's not Mr. Magoo though, but yeah.
Walter Mitty.
Yeah, the Secret Life.
Secret Life.
Yeah, he's kind of like Walter Mitty in a way, and I know this probably isn't that much of a comparison, but just like a guy that like just everything went his way.
Looks pretty good, by the way. Sign up.
Yeah, just like everything went his way, and it's like very unrealistic. This guy would have been beaten up. I know he got to run past the kids in school that didn't like him, but they would have caught him. They would have beat the crap out of him someday. So we know our finals.
Yep. What do we have?
Forrest Gump, runner extraordinaire, and also can handle the paddle.
Yeah.
Versus Mr. Happy Gilmore, golfer, handles the clubs, handles the sticks.
He handles those sticks. So I will say these are both your picks.
They were. So I'll have to think of something then.
Yeah.
Because I get the winner either way.
I don't want to spring it on you, but if you can come up with some kind of punishment by the end of this live stream, we got about 9 minutes.
Yeah.
Feel free to throw it on me, or we can make a separate video, or we'll just whatever. But
should be sport related. Maybe if you see this, maybe we'll hold off, and if we get any good ideas.
Hey, that's a good.
What would you like to see Chris have to do or attempt to do? Something funny and sports related, like have him like sign up for a 10K and have to run. Have him run like a beer mile or whatever, where you like chug a beer every 4. Well, not a beer mile, but hot dog
bang energy drink.
But that would be more dangerous if you had to drink an energy drink every 400 meters. Have ambulances on standby.
Yeah, dude.
Jesus.
When COVID was kicking off, they had us working crazy overtime at work, and I would not recommend this to anybody, but I was going through like 4 of these a day. And I remember there was a couple of days where I got up to 6.
Jeez.
And no good. But yes, so Forrest versus Happy. I would go Happy Gilmore. I'm a comedy guy, and this is my favorite Sandler movie. He's one of my favorite comedic actors, if not my favorite. Guy's been doing it since I've been born almost. And I no specific reason to go into other than I think Happy deserves this one.
Yeah. This is in some ways this is a weird matchup because again, like I said, my initial thought of like athletes is like some of the main sports, and golf and whatever the hell Forrest Gump was doing at any time are not what I consider major sports where you have like the biggest superstars. But that doesn't mean they're the best athletes either. Like in theory, probably the people that are best athletes are like people doing like Ironman competitions and aren't like superstars. God knows, CrossFit athletes and stuff like that. Probably
crazy, like those American Ninja Warrior type
Warrior dudes. Yeah, those are probably the best, just like natural and trained athletes because they can do so many physically gifted things.
Yeah, rock climbers.
But that's not who we love. Shit, if you fall to your death with rock climbing. You strap on one of those squirrel suits; those always work really well.
Yeah,
from what I've heard. But I guess if I have to be consistent with what I said in the Benny the Jet versus Forrest Gump matchup, I probably have to stay with Forrest Gump because of his success at multiple sports. Although Happy was successful at golf and hockey, but Forrest is like the character that, because of the nature of his story as a fictional character, would have just succeeded and been the best at anything. He would have won the world welterweight boxing championship by just like, I'm sorry, I don't want to fight you, and like tiring the guy out, and then just like accidentally sticking out his fist and punching the guy. He would have, been in the right place, right time, in like the Super Bowl, like caught a game-winning pass. Like, oh, this guy can kick really hard. Let's have him run out and just kick it from 60 yards. It's something ridiculous. So Forrest Gump, by being an absolute buffoon, gets to be the best athlete.
Yeah, and thinking about it, he like had like whatever made him slower, also made him like great. So the instructions that the guy gives him when he hands him the ping pong paddle is just don't take your eye off the ball. So he's like, oh, that's all I got to do. Okay. And then he just like, that's one rule that I can follow. I can apply that. So
some of that very like savant status of being like the kind of person that's like locked in, and like when they hear a rule, they follow it, and anything that requires like rules, they are just like they can master, because like they don't get like anxiety in their own mind about like I don't know, they just do, and they don't overthink things a lot of times.
Yeah, cool. Well, you want to reveal it? Or, you don't know. He doesn't know. I gotta reveal it.
Know.
Okay. All right. So we.
Do you know?
Yeah. Did
he tell you?
You can check our page now if you go under the. If you go.
I'm sweating probably.
Oh
my
god. If you go, I don't know, onto our channel and just go to like content or whatever, who knows? It's up there. And this one had a pretty good turnout. I want to say there's like 70 or 80 votes on YouTube, which is great for YouTube. So thank you everyone for voting. But the winner of the best fictional athlete bracket is Forrest Gump.
Oh,
yes, because the triple athlete or
however many sports he wanted to be good at.
Yeah, he can do it all. So Forrest Gump, according to the votes, the best fictional athlete ever.
The last one seed chosen, but able to take down some Adam Sandler characters. Well, I think just one. I don't think he went up against two, but
just the one.
I guess it makes sense as we talked it out. It's kind of it kind of feels cheap because he comes from not a sports movie, what I would consider not a sports movie, whereas the majority of these characters are fully focused and dedicated on sports. But the characters like Thumper come from South Park and did well, and they're just a good athlete and a show about things. So hopefully if we ever do run the best sports movie,
I was gonna say
Forrest Gump can't be in it,
right.
So then we can kind of see maybe how the movies and the athletes from those movies stack up.
I like that. So maybe, we're going to, through WrestleMania season, we're going to keep it wrestling focused. This is the last thing you'll see that's not wrestling related until at least after WrestleMania. And then maybe we'll run best sports movie after that. All right. We'll keep voting. Thanks for tuning in. If you're watching this later, leave us a comment. Let us know what you think my punishment should be for getting it wrong. And, hopefully as we're running best wrestler, one of mine will at least make it to the finals this time. Come on. I don't even remember who I drafted at this point. Austin? You
had Undertaker, I think, right? Who was our winner last time? I think you were the one overall.
Okay.
Because I think I was the one overall the last time we did wrestling.
Okay.
So, but yeah, we'll have to check it. We don't know. We don't have to remember.
Yeah, never. All right. See you, everybody.
See ya.
End it.